and the rest are sacrificed to them. Your interests don't count. You're not part of the public.
But I truly believe that there are libertarians that do talk about that common good in the sense of, listen, the best thing for a society is that everyone is a self-made person, where their rights are respected and they contribute. Because if you have a society full of parasites, where everyone is just putting their hand, expecting from someone else, what is going to happen in that society is that the people who are giving, either they leave, which is what happens in every communist country, all the bright, the productive people leave, and you're stuck with starving people that they don't even have freedom to then become entrepreneurs. And so I do believe there is a philosophical ground into saying that not by altruistic means, but by the interest of humanity, that there is proof that if in a society the individual rights are respected and everyone can pursue their happiness, that's the best of all the common goods. I don't know how to philosophically frame it.
Well, I think it's important that it be philosophically framed right. What that means and what a free society means, I think, when everyone's rights are respected, is if you take your life seriously and if you want to pursue your happiness, you're free to do so. And you'll therefore be able to do so, and you'll be around fellow people who are trying to do this, and you can trade and interact and form relationships with these people.
Yeah.
And the people who are choosing not to do this, who are in some way or other are throwing their lives away,
Yeah.
they're not productive, they can't get up off the couch and so on, you can avoid dealing with those people in a free society.
Yes.
So in a free society, any individual who's pursuing his own happiness is able to do that. And then if you look on it sort of an aggregate perspective, you can say, well, all the people who are trying to pursue their own happiness are able to do so. But the goal is each is trying to pursue his own happiness, not I'm trying to achieve some common good, some public interest, some collective perspective. And I think it's true that there are libertarian thinkers who take the idea of rights seriously, but they think of it too much as a political concept, not a moral concept.
Yeah.
And when they think of it as a moral concept, they try to defend it, if they try to defend it on moral grounds, in altruistic ways. And so what I think should have happened with Ayn Rand and the libertarian movement, if you, and the libertarian thinkers, if you read Ayn Rand's Capitalism, the Unknown Ideal, so her book that's on political philosophy, there's a bibliography at the end. And she recommends the works of Mises and of Hayek, but particularly Mises. She thinks he's the most significant theorist in regard to economics and a proper economic perspective. What should have happened in regard to Ayn Rand is the reverse of this. So you should have seen in von Mises' books, in Hazlitt's books, and then some of the later thinkers like a Friedman should have said, look, we're not philosophers. And this is about a proper division of labor. We're not philosophers. We're not moralists.
For that, go to Rand.
Yes, and you should have found references, and particularly in regard to morality and philosophy. This is the person, if you want a defense of individualism, individual morality, the pursuit of happiness, this is who you should read. That is not what happened. She continued to the end of her life to recommend von Mises. But what Hazlitt does, what Friedman did, and the worst I think in regard to this is Rothbard, is they said, no, we're going to have either a conventional moral perspective or we're going to say morality doesn't matter. And she particularly didn't like Friedman because she thought he's trying to take morality out of this whole issue, and you can't. And Rothbard turns against philosophy as such, I think. But if you take Hazlitt, Hazlitt's a utilitarian. If you read his things on morality, and what should have happened is, Ayn Rand's shown that utilitarianism is wrong. And if you want to understand morality and ethics, go read Ayn Rand. Just as she's telling you to read my stuff on economics, you should go read her things on philosophy. Yeah. And that never happened. So people think of it as Ayn Rand is sort of hard-nosed, she can't get along with anyone, and so on. But she recommends Mises. It doesn't go in the other direction. And now there's reasons why it doesn't go in the other direction. And the deepest reason, I think, it's the hardest thing in the world to challenge moral ideals. There's very few people who are comfortable doing that because it's similar to trying to escape religion. When you start to question and you say, well, I don't get altruism, I think there's something wrong and maybe really wrong with it. What happens? People tell you, yeah, but that's evil. Yeah. Really? You're going to be on the side of selfishness and against altruism, but altruism's good. So you're saying you're on the side of evil and you're going to be a sinner and a sinner for life? And the same thing happens with religion when you start to question. But you're not supposed to ask questions. You're just supposed to follow and you're just supposed to obey. So to step out of a morality and say, this isn't just wrong at the margins. It's all wrong. And Ayn Rand can do that. There's very few thinkers who are comfortable doing that. And so for someone like Hazlitt, it's much easier. Utilitarianism was the dominant moral perspective. It's much easier to say, yeah, that's what's right, and let me try to fit my economic views into it, rather than say, I've got economic views. They challenge everything in the mainstream. Maybe mainstream morality is all wrong too, and that's what Ayn Rand is arguing, and maybe we should take that seriously, and maybe we should look at that. We would be so far ahead in the fight for freedom if that happened.
I know. I think that libertarians were way more condescending with conservative movement, and because Rand was so separate from the conservative movement, she got that exclusion happened. But I hope that in the 21st century, libertarians recognize this. At least I see it in Latin America. The fact that the right-wing conservative movement and libertarians have been like playing politics since the 60s until the 90s was a disaster. And socialism of the 21st century is one of the results. So I hope that in looking back, libertarians can say, listen, instead of like allying with conservatives and the right wing, which at the end is also collectivist in many senses, rescue what objectivism has to offer. Onkar, we are out of time, but I could continue this conversation for hours.